Hello and welcome. My name is Erin Brophy. I am the principal oboe player of the Saskatoon Symphony, the sessional lecturer at the University of Saskatchewan, and director of a program called the Oboe Path. Thank you very much for joining me today for a live presentation called 3 Tips to Avoid Anxiety About Your Oboe Reeds. Now, I think that all oboe players imagine that the other oboe players have reed cases full of amazing reeds. I think that when you're a student and you're studying to become a performer, or if you are someone who is in your second wave of playing the oboe, you imagine that the professional oboe players all have cases upon cases of many and glorious reeds, and that's why they sound so good on the oboe. Today's presentation is to dispel that myth, because it's a myth. Oboe players only need one good reed at a time. And I can tell you, as a professional oboe player, I've been performing and teaching for 20 plus years. I don't have cases and cases full of amazing reeds. I'm always looking for one reed at a time. And that's what this presentation today is about. I'd like to share a little bit about how that can become the way that you do things with your reeds as well. Why am I doing this presentation? Well, it's very much in line with my teaching philosophy, which is connected to how I started on the oboe. I'm from a very remote place in Canada, in Northern Ontario. It's a beautiful place to grow up. It is glorious. It looks a lot like the paintings that the Group of 7 have done. There are gorgeous trees and rocks and crystal clear lakes. It's a beautiful place. And it was an idyllic childhood. And then I decided that I wanted to learn the oboe. And I fell in love with the instrument. It is such a wonderful instrument to play. And I fell in love with how it sounded. And when I started to listen to recordings, I realized that I sounded so fundamentally different from how the oboe was supposed to sound. And I really struggled to change that. I didn't have access to good reeds. I didn't have access to a functioning oboe. I didn't have access to good information. And there were many points in my early years of playing the oboe that I really wanted to give up. It was just too hard. And that is why now that I have a lot of good information, I want to share it. I don't want someone else to have the same struggles that I did trying to learn the instrument. The oboe is hard enough with great information. So I just want to take a little bit of the struggle away from those that are trying to improve on the instrument. And that's why I'm offering this live presentation today. It's also why I've created a program called the Oboe Path, which is an online oboe education program that uses a group online masterclass, a personalized, customized plan, and one-on-one laser feedback to enable oboists to play with joy and ease. Through the group online masterclass, students stay motivated to practice. With the one-on-one laser feedback, students don't waste their practice time and see the results immediately. Through the customized personal plan, they're able to practice with clarity, and they can maximize their practice time so that oboe can fit into their busy lives. Let's talk now about the 3 tips to avoiding anxiety about your oboe reeds. So, if oboe players don't have, cases and cases of amazingly beautiful reeds, how do they consistently create a beautiful sound on their instrument? Well, I'm going to tell you. So, tip number 1 to avoid anxiety about your reeds. It's something that I find very helpful is to have many options in your reed case. So that's tip number 1, is to not just have 2 or 3 oboe reeds, but to have 10 oboe reeds. I realize that there is an investment in terms of having that many options in your case. But what I will tell you is that reeds change so much. Because the end of an oboe reed is as thin as a human hair, it's highly changeable based upon temperature, altitude, air pressure, acoustic that you're playing in. So the reed that sounds really great for you in your living room may not be the same reed that sounds really beautiful in the church you're performing in or the concert hall you're performing in. And so having many different options, reeds that you can take into the concert hall where your performance is and choose which reed is it today at this very moment is the reed that is working the best for me. Having many options to choose from I think makes you feel a little bit more comforted going into the concert that you will have an option to play on. I can't tell you how many times I've chosen a reed at home and then traveled to the concert hall and ended up choosing a different reed in the concert hall. Same goes for the concert that feels the reed that feels the greatest for the dress rehearsal at 10 in the morning is not the same reed that I choose to play the concert on. Now, there are lots of factors that go into that. It can be a change in the environment. It can also be a change in yourself. You know, my embouchure might be a little bit more tired, having already played the dress rehearsal. So I actually might choose a reed that's different in the concert. So having lots of options, I think, goes a long way to you feeling settled into feeling like, I will have an option for this read, so that will give you some comfort in preparation. It can feel very anxiety filling to only have in your mind one good read. Will it last? Should I play it for the dress rehearsal? How do I make sure? Do I practice on it? Do I save it for the concert? If you have many other options in your case rather than just 2 or 3 reads, I think it goes a long way to settling you for that concert. Tip number 2 is to have a consistent way that you choose your reads. So I find something I've observed about myself in performing is that if I have a consistent way that I choose a read at home and I use that same method when I'm choosing a read in the concert, not only does the ritual of it feel very comforting, but also it helps me to choose a read that's going to work consistently in the acoustic that I am playing that particular concert or rehearsal. Same goes for practicing. I actually choose my reads the same way for practicing as I do for playing in the concert. Now, if I'm practicing, I may not choose my best read because I do like to leave my really great reads for playing in public. If I know a read will not make the grade ever for playing a concert, for example, it's quite flat or I really dislike the color of sound, I will keep it for just it has a use. I want to use all my reads, definitely has a use. I will use it as my practice read. And so, I do make that consideration between a concert read and a practicing read. But I think that by consistently asking the same thing of your reads, you have a way to sort of distinguish between this is a read that's working for me today and this is a read that may work for me another day, rather than thinking that this is a great read and this is a bad read, but today this read is working really well. And having a consistent way that you are evaluating your reads will go a long way to making you feel comforted that you've made the right choice when you get into your concert. As oboe players, we all know what it's like to play on great reeds, and it really does. I feel omnipotent. Like I can play anything when my reed is really, really great. The thing is that the audience doesn't care. At no point can I stand up during a concert and say, I'm sorry, this evening's performance will be brought to you by a subpar reed. We can't do that. No one except for oboe players cares about our oboe reeds. They just want to hear beautiful music. So our job as oboe players is to always feel like the reed that we're playing is the best reed that we have, and having a consistent way that you're choosing your reeds, and having a system for yourself of evaluation of what is important to you in terms of what you need from your reed will go a long way to you feeling comforted in your choice, and that will help you feel more relaxed for the concert. The third tip I'd like to give you today really is talking about shifting your mindset. So I think it's really easy as oboe players for us to blame the weaknesses of our playing on our reeds. It's a trap that I have fallen into many times. And it's a very understandable human trap. I want to be able to blame something else for something that I'm not able to achieve to what I envision. And I think that certainly on the path of learning the oboe, there is this perception that in order to be a great oboe player, you have to become a better reed maker. And that is true to a certain extent. The better reed maker you are, the more consistent of an oboe player you are. But what I've noticed about really great reed makers is that they are very flexible musicians. And not only in how they're producing music, but also flexible in their reed making. Now, I don't mean that they change things in the reed making all the time. What I mean is that they're able to be flexible in how they're set up to the instrument, how they're blowing, their embouchure set up, so that no matter what reed they are playing that concert on, they sound consistent. And that flexibility, I think, is a mindset shift where we are looking at accommodating the reed to serve the sound that we want to hear, and being open to whatever we need to do with our physical body in order to achieve the sound we want to through the reed. Now, I'm not talking about the difference between a functioning and non-functioning reed. Non-functioning reeds, those don't work. They shouldn't stay in your case. They're not helpful for you. But I'm talking about the variations amongst functioning reeds. And changing our mindset, thinking that I'm going to make this reed fabulous. I'm going to make this reed sound amazing. I'm going to go through my reeds before a concert, in the concert hall, in the rehearsal space, and choose which one sounds the best today. And even if it is not, even if it's not something that I am able to achieve all of the things I want to on the reed, this is the best reed I have, and I'm going to physically be flexible enough to really pull out the sounds that I want to out of the instrument, rather than seeing the reed as an impediment to how we can make music, looking at the reed as something that is going to teach us a lot about flexibility. It can be a gift in terms of it can be a gift in that learning experience. The thing that I've noticed about oboe players, and I am definitely guilty of this, is that we really like to do things well. If there's a Venn diagram of like the type A personality and the oboe player, we like to do things well at a very high level. And so it can be very frustrating when the reeds in our perception don't live up to the standards of what we want to produce. And I think the gift that the reed presents for us is this lesson of flexibility, of taking it as it comes, having confidence that we know what we are doing, and we have all of the tools in our tool belt to help this reed sound as best as we know it can. Changing that mindset can have a really a big impact on how you approach your reeds in terms of performance anxiety. I think that it's something that is not talked a lot about in the performance anxiety literature. And I think it's because it's something that is outside of our control. But I think that shifting your mindset will go a long way towards you feeling more relaxed and more joyous in your music making. To that end, I have a free webinar coming up on October the 6th at 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Underneath this live presentation is a link if you would like to register. If anything in today's presentation resonated with you, I'll be diving a little bit deeper into the fundamentals of playing the oboe with joy and ease. And I'll be going over some strategies of how you can approach this flexibility in your oboe playing. I hope you can join me on October the 6th, and thank you very much for listening today. Let's all become the oboe players that everyone wants to play with. Play with joy and ease. Take care.